The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Jones.
Okay, let us pray. Lord, we come before you as a humble people. We ask you to guide our hands in our decision-making for the people, property, and finances of this great city. We ask you to look over the first responders as they work to protect our citizens. We ask that you continue to look over our great city as you have for the past 200 years. Amen.
Amen. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
Councilmember Perry. Councilmember Reesner.
Here.
Councilmember Spar.
Here.
Councilmember Thacker. Councilmember Wilkins.
Here.
And Councilmember Mansour.
Present.
Let the record show that 6 of 7 members are present this evening. This is a public hearing notice. A public hearing with Tiffin City Council will be held in council chambers, 51 East Market Street on Monday, October 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. for the consideration of Ordinance 23-60, ordinance responding to petitions number 2023-01, 2023-02, and 2023-03, vacating a portion of Walker Street and adjacent and nearby alleys in the 1st and 4th wards of the city of Tiffin, Ohio. At this time and place, anyone wishing to address council may direct their questions to myself. Sure.
I would just simply state that I'm Rod Morrison here from Heidelberg University. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer those, but we are petition.
Thank you. If there are no questions, I will close the public hearing. Minutes for September 18th, 2023, regular and committee of the whole meetings were distributed. Any questions, corrections, deletions? Yes, Councilmember Jones.
You got to put my fingers on them, but committee of the whole. Page 4058. I mentioned that for the council's benefit that I spoke with Chief Pauly. He said 35 licenses were issued. Is what I meant to say is it was a combination of golf carts and slow-moving vehicles both, not just golf carts. So,
Got it.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, with that change, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Committee reports, Finance Committee, Councilmember Mansour. Reesner, sorry.
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. Yeah, that looked wrong. Law and Community Planning, Councilmember Mansour.
I do have a report, Madam President. Law and Community Planning Committee met at 4 p.m. on 9/23 in council chambers. President was myself, Committee Member Wilkins, Committee Member Perry, Mayor Iannatuno, City Administrator Dutra, Law Director Howard, Parks Director Kuhn, Councilmember Spar, and Committee Members Finn, Kuhn, and Lee Wilkinson. The purpose was to discuss Mayor's request for legislation 2340 regarding the removal of a provisional statement of distress merchandise sale legislation. City Administrator Dutra presented the committee about Tiffin Codified Ordinance 707-02, which was passed in 1958 and required a license to advertise on conduct of distressed merchandise sale. Part of the code required a fee of $25 for distressed license sale license, and then 707-8 required a fee of $10 if renewal was needed. A business had contacted Sydney to apply for the license, and out of discussion with the business, a new application was created. City Administrator Dutra stated he was in support of a statute, but was asking the council to get rid of the $25 and $10 fee. Stated that there was not a lot of, City Administrator Dutra said there was not a lot of clerical work involved. I asked when the last time the license was applied, and the City Administrator and Law Director were not aware the last time. Law Director Howard said it was a consumer protection law and indicated it was appropriate to keep on law books. Councilmember Perry indicated it was a silly rule to apply for a license to go out of business. I asked if Councilmember Mansour asked if he was removed, would business have to apply? Law Director Howard indicated yes, the license would be required so people are not misled and have protection. And so Councilmember Perry asked what would happen if business was denied. Law Director Howard said that they would not be able to advertise as a distressed merchandise sale. Councilmember Spar asked how it would be enforced. City Administrator Dutra indicated there are penalty clauses written in the law. Councilmember Wilkins made the motion to remove the fee and update the language as Law Director Howard had suggested. Councilmember Perry second, motion passed 3-0. That's my report, Madam President.
Thank Thank you. You could be an auctioneer.
I do that all day with the students, so it's, try to keep it short and sweet.
Efficiency, yes, thank you. Any questions on the report? Okay, thank you very much. Materials and equipment, Councilmember Jones.
No report at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Anyone from the Personnel and Labor Relations Committee have a report?
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. And Recreation and Public Property, Councilmember Wilkins.
Yes, I do have a report. I will not read as quickly as Councilmember Mansour. The Recreation and Public Property Committee was held on Monday, September 25th, 2023, in council chambers to discuss mayor's request for legislation 23-39 regarding the abrogation of deed restrictions for the private sale of land and any other business. Attending were committee members Dan Perry, Ken Jones, and myself, Mayor Don Yanatuno, Director of Law Brent Howard, City Administrator Nick Dutro, Director of Parks Bryce Kuhn, council members Chris Mansour and John Spar, and community members Lee Wilkinson and Finn Kuhn. I opened up the meeting by reading legislation 23-39 and shared a photo of the property in its current state, which at this time there is nothing at the park besides a concrete pad and some trees. City Administrator Dutro shared that city administration is trying to remove the deed restriction that is on this property because at this time we cannot sell it or even give it away. The city of Tiffin, through the federal Lands to Parks program, entered into an agreement in 1973 with the Secretary of the Interior to take ownership of a 2.4-acre parcel just east of the current city limits on SR 101. Since that time, the city has continued to maintain that land and make it available for the public good and has named it after one of our finest natives, Louisa K. Fast, who was an integral part in the women's suffrage movement and played a role in the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. There are 3 options to the federal government. 1 is abrogation, 2, land exchange, and 3, give it back to the federal government. Dutro continued, stating the steps requested are as follows: a resolution from town council supporting the action, proof of public engagement, which we can do through a council meeting, and provide the meeting minutes showing the actions were discussed and approved. And 3, appraisal of the property. Any cost would be incurred by the city of Tiffin, which could be recouped at the time of sale. Dutro said it would be our goal to sell the land after the deed restrictions are removed. Councilmember Mansour asked what the approximate value of this land is. City Administrator Dutro said we would need an appraisal, but the closest, most recent sale is that is similar in size and scope as the former West Junior High property that Heavenly Pizza just bought. He thinks this would not go for how much that went due to no utilities or road frontage. Parks Director Bryce Kuhn mentioned the county has no interest in this land either, since it is actually outside of city limits. Wilkins asked how much the appraisal of the land would be. Dutro said approximately $2,000. Wilkins asked how much does it cost for us to maintain this area for the city. Kuhn said that workers are at the park twice a week for 2 to 4 hours to mow, weed whack, etc. Mansour asked if there was another location where we could recognize Louisa K. Fast. Kuhn said yes, there's a location we have in mind. Director of Law Brent Howard said at one point the property was used as a BMX bike track, and there have been tennis courts out there, so there has been effort to use this property, but the location is difficult to get to. Kuhn said that was the case, but they have since removed due to lack of use. Howard said the charter allows city council to authorize the sale of property by ordinance. Once we pay fair market value to the federal government, the hope is that we can then turn around and sell it for what we paid plus any costs. Dutro said we have additional paperwork we need to complete, and it will be a while until we are ready to purchase this. With that said, we are not required to purchase this land. We can get the appraisal and make sure we have an interested buyer before moving ahead with a purchase of the property from the federal government. Howard said we can enter into a contract with a potential buyer, and it would be binding on that buyer, subject to city council approval and contingent on getting this deed restriction removed. Once we know our costs, we can negotiate with that buyer, so this is budget neutral for the city. Motion from Dan Perry to have the law director prepare legislation for 1, a resolution supporting the abrogation of deed restrictions, and 2, ordinance amending the budget by $2,000 for the appraisal expense. Jones seconded that motion. A motion was approved 3-0 with no other business. We adjourned at 4:29 p.m.
Thank you. Questions on that committee report? Thank you. Street Sidewalks and Sewers, Councilmember Thacker.
Yes, I also have a report. A Street Sidewalks and Sewers Committee meeting was held on September 25th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. on site at Michelle and Souter Petition 2023-04 an alley off of St. Clair Street. Attending were all committee members, along with City Council members John Spar, City Law Director Brent Howard, Mayor Dawn. I'm sorry, I messed it up again. I just realized it. So sorry. Mayor Dawn, Jan Tuno, City Administrator Nick Dutro, City Engineer Matt Watson, and petitioners Jeffrey Michelle and Beth Souter. Thacker called the meeting to order to discuss alley vacation petition 2023-04 and any other business that may come before them. Michelle and Souter explained that they wanted to have the alley vacated to put up a new garage or building. In its current state, the alley is gravel and grass. Michelle and Souter own all adjacent properties. There was much discussion on where to put the building with enough setback from the current and potential property lines if the alley is vacated. With all of the current sewer projects starting, Watson thought it would be good to maintain an easement on the property for public utilities and any future sewer projects. Perry agreed. Perry motioned for the law director to prepare legislation to accept the alley vacation while maintaining an easement. The motion was seconded by Reesner. The motion passed 5-0. With no further business, the committee adjourned at 5:56 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions on that report? All right. And Economic Development and Downtown Planning, Councilmember Spar.
No report at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Does anyone see the need to schedule a committee of the whole meeting? Thank you. We are now under reports of the officers. Her honored Mayor Dawn Yanatuno.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. Before I get started this evening, I do have some committee assignments that I need to make. One will be the Sewer Review Board. With the passing of Scott Daniel, I need to make a replacement there. And also TMAC, we have someone in mind, but if you know someone, let me know. And so, just a reminder to council, we will begin holding our annual budget meeting starting with November 6th meeting, where Nick, Kathy, and I are meeting with all department heads in the next 2 weeks to get their budgets nailed down, and then so we'll start meeting with each of you. We will break it into, on November 6th, the mayor, the city administrator, director of communications, HR, parks, law director, water treatment, and finance. And then we'd like to have a special meeting on the 13th for police and fire, and then on the 20th, public works and engineering, so that we're not getting so much thrown at us all at once. And wondering if you want to actually switch the meeting on the 13th to 5:30, or do you want to keep it at the same time at 6:45? And so keep that in mind. And then also in December, we'll need 3 readings again, or 3 meetings again for 3 readings to pass the budget. So I'm looking at the 4th, 11th, and 18th. And again, on the 11th, we could do a 5:30 timeframe if you want to do it earlier. So something for you to think about. We have several Halloween dates to keep in mind. Destination Seneca County is hosting the Halloween Parade on Saturday, October 21st. It will be downtown, kicking off at 10 a.m. Tiffin's Trick or Treat will be Sunday afternoon on October 29th from 3 to 5 p.m. And October 19th is October's third Thursday event, his downtown Trick or Treat from 4:30 to 6. And at 6:30 in the parking lot number 6, our Tiffin Fire Department will be hosting the first ever Great Pumpkin Drop. Since Chief Chappell is here with us tonight to share some information, maybe he'd like to talk to us about this new and probably messy event. So Chief Chappell.
Thank you, Mayor, for the time tonight. Madam President, thank you for allowing me to address council as well. As Mayor indicated, October 19th, third Thursday event at 6:30. The Tiffin Fire Rescue is going to be working with a couple different community partners on doing our first Great Pumpkin Drop, as we decided on a name for it. Been working with Donna Gross with TSEP on trying to put this together. It is an inaugural event, so we're going to be learning as we go. Lowe's was kind enough, they're going to be donating the pumpkins. There's actually going to be 12 of them, and each program out at Sentinel will be decorating an individual pumpkin, which then will be dropped from, we're going to say 100 foot up on the aerial, down onto a target, painted on the ground, and just making a mess. I think it's something that all the kids could really enjoy, and maybe even a few of the adults. I think myself and the other firefighters there are probably going to enjoy it too. So definitely hoping for some great weather and a great turnout from the community as we give this a shot and see how it goes. Additionally, unless there are any questions pertaining to that event, looking forward to it. Also, I want to speak briefly about, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we, in the city, take the idea from the walleye drop in Port Clinton, or just something else that just,
I will admit that this wasn't an entirely original idea that I come up with.
Oh, you
It
came
was
up
just
with
something that I had saw other fire departments that had done this in the past. And I just thought that it would be a good way for the fire department to engage with the community.
okay.
So, but yeah, I don't know if the walleye drops from 100 feet or not. I think that one's a little shorter. So maybe when they do that next time, they'll say that they're trying to be like Tiffin.
Ours won't smell as bad.
Also a good possibility, I hope. We intend to clean up afterwards too, so. Any other questions about the Great Pumpkin Drop? All right. I also wanted to speak with you, there's in your package tonight, the request for legislation to appropriate some additional money into the budget. Fortunately, this time I'm not asking for money. This is all money that has been granted to the fire department. I'd first like to speak about a $1,500 donation from Webster Industries that was received on November 18th, coming up later this fall. The Tiffin Fire Department will be hosting an event from retired Deputy Chief Frank Viscuso. Chief Viscuso is a national speaker. He's spoken and done a keynote actually at FDIC in Indianapolis, which is the largest firefighting conference in the world, which is actually a really big deal for those people that don't know. He teaches about leadership development, and it really does transcend and go well beyond just the fire service. So this is anything that anybody that would have interest in improving upon their own leadership and customer service abilities could really benefit from. It's a free event that we're able to cover, in part thanks to this donation from Webster Industries. Additional information about it is available on our social media on Facebook with an event that had been created for it. It's called Step Up and Lead, based off of one of his books, which we've used on promotional exams in the past for our personnel as well. Just a great material, and definitely looking forward to having him here speaking to the members of our department and other departments around us. So looking forward to that November 18th. That'll start at 9 in the morning. Next, we received a grant from BWC. It's called their Safety Intervention Grant. This is a grant which our city is eligible to apply for every 3 years. And we're able to receive in BWC dollars up to $40,000 per year, with our match being required to cover the rest. One of the things that we were looking at wanting to do with this was to improve upon some of our capabilities on the EMS side of things. Many of our injuries that we do see happen do unfortunately happen during EMS incidents. And we, several years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago at least now, we started using powered cots that are able to raise and lower simply with the push of a button. It's much better than having to get down in the proper lifting position and then 2 people try and lift the cot with the patient on it. Since using the powered version, it's gone much better. Significant capabilities of lifting patients that weigh even 500 or 600 pounds. So with the stair chairs, the Stryker has come out with a powered stair chair. We've been using one that is actually also pretty decent in taking patients downstairs, which we do quite a bit of. This is basically, if you could picture, I provided copies earlier, basically like a wheelchair, except it has caterpillar treads on the back of it that can be deployed, and then it actually will slide right down the treads of each stair. It's a much smoother rather than bump as you go up or down the stairs. But with our current equipment, one of the shortfalls is that it's designed for going down the stairs. It can go up if you really need it to, but it's not really what it's there for. With this new powered version, we've got the ability, again, with the push of a button, to take patients up or downstairs. So somebody is in their basement and needs to be brought up to the main floor to get out of the house, we're able to do that. We assist Mercy Hospital from time to time with taking patients out of the ER and returning them to their homes. This would be another application where we could utilize this technology. Their sticker shocks, $16,500 each. That with a couple of the charging pieces of equipment that we had all in was $51,758. Deputy Chief Mike Homan was tasked with pursuing this grant, and was very successful in achieving that. So the nearly $52,000 of equipment, the city's portion of that is $12,940, which we do have available in our capital budget already, so no additional funds would need to be encumbered for this purchase. The chairs actually arrived much quicker than what we were expecting. We were told probably up to 6 months. They were here within 6 weeks. So Stryker is sitting on them, waiting for this money to be appropriated so that we can get the PO created in a timely fashion and get them here and get training with them. So really, really cool piece of technology that we're using. We should be one of the first departments within the state of Ohio to have this. So I'm very happy for our personnel that we'll be able to do that. And I think it's also going to contribute to a safer course of treatment for many of our patients that we encounter. The final item that was included in the packet for tonight was a donation of $13,250 from the Tiffin Community Foundation. As we're all too familiar with anymore, terrorism, domestic terrorism is a real burden that is facing many, many communities across the country. I'm not going to really speak about what was going on at Mohawk schools today. I'm sure everybody's probably heard about that, though. And so it can and unfortunately will hit close to home, and we need to be prepared for that. In 1999, Columbine High School shooting was the first real time that police, fire, and EMS had to coexist and work together at that sort of scene. Prior to that, it was police would go in, they would secure the scene, they would take care of everything that they needed to, and then fire and EMS could get in and actually start accessing any victims. In 2014, the Pulse nightclub shooting occurred that left 49 people dead and 50 others injured. What originally started off as an active shooter ended up with the gunman barricaded in the back corner of the building with hostages that he had taken. There were possibilities that there were IEDs and other possible explosive devices located around there. And as the police were starting to clear portions of that building, at that time, their EMS was not trained up to be working alongside fire or alongside the PD. So it's believed that many people ultimately died from their injuries because of that delay in care reaching them, which is just horrible. So let's see, 3 years ago now, this month actually, I became interim chief and now am chief. And it was one of my goals to build up a tactical EMS team within our fire department as a resource, not just for our SRT and local law enforcement agencies, but also even a regional asset. When something like this can and may happen, it's going to require a lot of people from a very wide area. Our resources are pretty spread out around this area, and we're going to rely on people that are trained and properly prepared for that. So we did the training with Tiffin University last year, tactical emergency casualty care class that many of our members participated in, and that's fantastic. Since that time, we've had 3 of our lieutenants who completed an advanced trauma operative training class. It's a very tactical style class. It's more like a police training than EMS, but there is still a lot of EMS integrated into it. 2, just this last week, completed the Marion Technical College program and are now qualified to carry the same weapons that our PD can and do. So we're getting there very quickly. There's another class at the end of this year. We'll get our 3rd lieutenant through that. So we'll have 3 members within our department that are going to be embedded directly in with SRT and our PD, so that when they go out on one of their call outs, whether it's a high-risk warrant, whether it's a standby for somebody barricaded in a building, whatever the case will be, we'll have a paramedic right there alongside our officers. So what will that do? It's going to provide us faster access to any potential victims. We talked about the Pulse nightclub. Well, hopefully now we'll be better equipped and trained to reach those victims more quickly. We'll be able to provide immediate access to our police officers should one of them become injured during the course of their duties. We'll be able to begin immediately rendering care to them. And then 3rd and final point would be that we'll be able to continually assess the PD during these operations. These are high adrenaline type events. Everybody wants to keep going and going, but somebody's got to be able to stand back and say, hey, we've been out here for quite a while. This is a long scene. Why don't you go take a break, decompress over here a little bit. Let's rotate somebody else in. And that's something we do a lot more of on the fire service side. And this will just provide kind of again, an embedded medical personnel right there with the PD to look after just their general health and well-being at an incident of this type. So the $13,250 the Tiffin Community Foundation was kind enough to donate to us will fully outfit these 3 members with bulletproof vests, helmets, uniforms, and some of the other equipment that they're going to need to actually be able to deploy with SRT. So we were very fortunate and thankful to have received that money. It definitely expedites the process, and we hope to be able to do more training with the SRT as we continue to develop this resource and move forward with it. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can. That's fine too.
Well, thank you, Chief, for coming in, and it's good to see that the stair chairs can come a lot faster than our ambulances.
Yes, there's not the lead times for these.
So always a pleasure. Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you all. Have a good night.
And that concludes my report.
All right, Clerk of Council Ann Forrest.
No report, Madam President.
Director of Finance Kathy Kaufman.
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. And Director of Law Brent T. Howard.
Yes, thank you. Just one item. I wanted to highlight a section of Ordinance 23-68. That is the ordinance that will vacate an alley off of St. Clair Street. The Street Sidewalk and Sewer Committee met, as you heard the minutes, last week. And as part of that discussion, there is really a demonstrated need to retain some significant rights for the city to use that alley in the future for any sewer-related work. So the Section 2 of Ordinance 23-68 provides some detail of the rights that the city is reserving. This document, a certified copy of this document, upon passage and going into effect, will be recorded in the recorder's office. And you'll see in Section 2 that it says that the property owners, the adjacent property owners that will become the owners of the property upon vacation, they will have to keep the property, the area where the alley was located, clear of all buildings, structures, and other obstructions. They can use it, not inconsistent with the rights that we reserve, but even then, they can't in any way interfere or endanger the construction, operation, or maintenance of any of our facilities that we may use. So that's the language that we will use in case we ever need to protect our rights to use the vacated alley for sewer services. So I just wanted to highlight that because there was quite a discussion about that at the Street Sidewalk and Sewer Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Any questions about that language or the purpose of it? That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We are now under written communications.
We have Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-30 to amend the 2023 Budget Ordinance 22-108 to appropriate funds into the police budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-30 is prepared tonight as ordinance 23-63.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-31 to amend the 2023 Budget Ordinance 22-108 to appropriate funds into the Street Department budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-31 is prepared tonight as ordinance 23-64.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-32 to amend the 2023 Budget Ordinance 22-108 to appropriate funds into the Fire Department budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-32 is prepared tonight as ordinance 23-66.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-33 to amend the 2023 Budget Ordinance 22-108 to reduce funds in the Street Department budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F23-33 is prepared tonight as ordinance 23-69.
And we also have information from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding a liquor permit transfer from Gase Limited, doing business as Clover Club, to Tiffin Investments LLC, also doing business as the Clover Club.
Is that a hold on file? Or is that a assignment?
They have to.
Yeah, okay.
They have to approve it.
We'll assign that to the Street Sidewalks and Sewers Committee. Does that complete the?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, that's okay, that's okay. Just making sure I wasn't missing something. We are now under oral communications. Anyone wishing to address council may step to the podium, sign in, and direct their questions to myself. Good. We are now under motions. Isn't it yours?
Oh,
Or 23-59?
And with
For the amended-
2359.
yeah, motion to amend ordinance 23-59. The version, the red line version, the agenda change memo.
Okay, thank you. There is a motion to amend ordinance 23-59 as outlined in the agenda memo change for the red line version. Is there a second? Councilmember Thacker.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Any other motions this evening? All right, we are now under resolutions and ordinances.
Resolution number 23-29, introduced by Vicki Wilkins. Resolution supporting the abrogation of deed restrictions on the city property known as the Louisa K. Fast Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is the first reading of Resolution 23-29.
Ordinance number 23-57, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker. Ordinance authorizing installment of one street light on 3rd Avenue between Shawn Avenue and Wall Street and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is the third reading of Ordinance 23-57. Councilmember Thacker.
I move for passage of ordinance 23-57.
Thank you. There is a motion for passage of Ordinance 23-57. Is there a second? Councilmember Spar.
I second that motion, Madam
There's a
President.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll first vote on the emergency.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Perry. I'm sorry. Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Emergency passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 23-57 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-58, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker. Ordinance authorizing installment of one streetlight on Water Street at or near the Viaduct Bridge and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is the third reading of Ordinance 23-58. Councilmember Thacker.
I move for passage of ordinance 23-58.
Thank you. There's a motion for passage of Ordinance 23-58. Is there a second? Councilmember Mansour.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll first vote on the emergency.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Emergency passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 23-58 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-59.
Amended ordinance.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
Right. Thank you.
Fine.
Amended ordinance 23-59. Ordinance enacting Chapter 725 of the Tiffin Codified Ordinances establishing the registration of contractors working in the city.
Thank you. This is the third reading of amended ordinance 23-59. See, I did it too. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for passage of ordinance 23-59 as amended.
There is a motion for passage of amended ordinance 23-59. Is there a second? Councilmember Thacker.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Mansour.
Yes.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Amended ordinance 23-59 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-60, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker. Ordinance responding to petitions number 2023-01, 2023-02, and 2023-03, vacating a portion of Walker Street and adjacent and nearby alleys in the 1st and 4th wards of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
Thank you. This is the second reading of ordinance 23-60.
Ordinance number 23-63, introduced by Kevin Reesner. Ordinance amending 2023 budget ordinance 22-108 to appropriate $1,993.77 into the police budget for donations received for the police K-9 program.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-63. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for immediate passage of ordinance 23-63, suspending city council's 3 reading rule, and also with appreciation to the donors.
Thank you. There is a motion for suspension of council's 3 reading rule for ordinance 23-63. Is there a second? Councilmember Wilkins.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll first vote on the suspension.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
And Wilkins?
Yes.
Suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
And Wilkins?
Yes.
Ordinance 23-63 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-64, introduced by Kevin Reesner. Ordinance amending 2023 budget ordinance 22-108 to appropriate $4,000 into the street department budget for professional services for the remainder of the year.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-64. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for immediate passage of ordinance 23-64, suspending city council's 3 reading rule.
Thank you. There is a motion for suspension of council's 3 reading rule of ordinance 23-64 and immediate passage. Is there a second? Councilmember Mansour.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Jones.
Could I get an explanation of which professional services we're speaking of? Just
Finance Director.
general, I guess, but
Yeah, the street department has someone that they have contracted with, a staffing agency in the city to help out. And that person needs to stay on for a few more weeks, and they did not have enough area in that part of their budget to get that person to stay a little bit longer. So that's why they needed a little bit more.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we will first vote on the suspension.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Ordinance 23-64 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-65, introduced by Kevin Reesner. Ordinance amending 2023 budget ordinance 22-108 to appropriate $2,000 into the Parks Department budget for land appraisal of the Louisa K. Fast Park property.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-65.
Ordinance number 23-66, introduced by Kevin Reesner. Ordinance amending 2023 budget ordinance 22-108 to appropriate a total of $53,568.89 into the fire department budget, which will be used to purchase tactical EMS protective clothing, fire conference sponsorship, and purchase of Stryker Expedition stair chairs.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-66. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 23-66, suspending city council's 3 reading rule, and a good job to the department getting the grants for this.
Thank you. There is a motion to suspend council's 3 reading rule and passage of ordinance 23-66. Is there a second? Councilmember Mansour.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will first vote on the suspension.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
And Wilkins?
Yes.
Suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mansour?
Yes.
Reesner?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Thacker?
Yes.
And Wilkins?
Yes.
Ordinance 23-66 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 23-67, introduced by Chris Mansour. Ordinance amending Chapter 707 of Tiffin Codified Ordinances, removing the fees for a distressed merchandise sales license.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-67.
Ordinance number 23-68, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker. Ordinance responding to petition 2023-04, vacating the alley off of St. Clair Street running east and west between lots number 3 and 4 of Letter Hose subdivision and lot number 17 of Hemmings resurvey in the 3rd Ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-68.
Ordinance number 23-69, introduced by Kevin Reesner. Ordinance amending 2023 Budget Ordinance 22-108 to reduce funds in the street department budget by $80,093.65, as these funds will not be spent this year.
Thank you. This is the first reading of ordinance 23-69. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for immediate passage of ordinance 23-69, suspending city council's 3 reading rule.
Thank you. There is a motion for suspension of ordinance 23-69 and passage. Is there a second? Councilmember Spar.
I second that motion, Madam President.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. First reading of 2369 tonight. Reducing their budget by $80,093 is commendable. Could the other departments learn off the street department? Or how did this come about? A reduction of
Director.
almost
Thank you.
81,000.
Yeah, this is the time of year where we start to review the current year budget, and so you'll see a lot more of these. And if you remember, at the end of the year, there are quite a few where we do budget reductions. The street department currently is over budget. They're saying they're going to spend more money than is actually going to come in, and you can't do that. So that's why we're reviewing things, just to see where they can have some of that budget reduced, and then that will get them back into balance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. I didn't see you.
To Councilman Jones's point, I do want to point out that many of our departments do return a portion of their budgets every year. As we get close, obviously, we start to look at our budgets and see what purchases we had planned to make or weren't making. So we always expect about 5% of the budget does go back every year at the end of the year, and we budget accordingly. We'll talk about that more as we discuss our budgeting for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll first vote on the suspension. Sorry, I have a gnat that likes me.
He's over there, he was over here.
Yeah, I'm pushing him over to you, Ann.
He's moving down.
We will first vote on the suspension.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. We'll now vote on the passage.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mansour.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Spar.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
And Wilkins.
Yes.
Ordinance 23-69 passes with a vote of 6-0.
And that concludes the ordinances.
Thank you. We are now under other business. At this time, I'd like to announce a public hearing that will be held on Monday, October 16th at 7:00 p.m. in council chambers immediately following a roll call for the purpose of consideration ordinance 23-68. Any questions on that? And then additionally, as the mayor mentioned in her report this evening, we have a couple special meetings that we need to schedule in regards to budget reviews for departments. So she had mentioned November 13th as well as December 11th and recommended 5:30 p.m. Do those dates and times work for council? Yes, Councilmember Thacker.
I have one conflict, but I don't know if it will be the middle potential December meeting or the regular first meeting.
Okay.
But I'll let you know as soon as I know.
Anyone else have any conflicts with those dates or times? Yes, Councilmember Swar.
I have a previous scheduled meeting at 6:30 on the 13th. But
How long do you think we need?
that'll be police and fire, won't it?
maybe up to an hour.
Yeah.
Because when I meet with them ahead of time, I try to get key points, and that's how I did it last year, so that we weren't spending quite so much time on it. Maybe at the most an hour.
So are we talking about 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was doing 5:30 because Kevin can't get here till 5:30, so.
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to plan for that and then,
Plan for that, yeah.
okay,
If I have to,
You might have, if you have to leave,
it's
you have to
just
leave.
uptown, so.
okay. Okay, so given that, I'd like to announce a special meeting for November 13th at 5:30 PM in council chambers for the purpose of department budget reviews and any other business to come before council. And then additionally, a special meeting on December 11th at 5:30 PM in council chambers for the purpose of department budget reviews and any other business to come before council that evening.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
on the February 11th, that will be for reading ordinances, legislation for the approval of the budget.
December
and-
11th.
Yeah, December 11th, and related items. And then also, I would assume, and I'm looking at Kathy, also the pay ordinance, there will be changes. So there'll be various legislation that I would recommend that you read 3 times during the month of December.
Okay. Okay, so I'll modify my special meeting announcement for December 11th to also include any ordinances that need to be read for that meeting. I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
Related to
To
the budget, the 2024 budget, and the pay ordinance.
related to the 2024 budget and the pay ordinance, and any other business to come before council.
I have a question.
Yes.
And this is more of an instruction for me, rather than a questioning of you. The Ohio Division of Liquor Control, I was wondering why it was assigned to streets, sidewalks, and sewers rather than law and community planning.
No.
And if there's a good reason, I just want to know it, unless you've got just piling.
It's always been done.
It's, I know,
that way.
historically, it's always been done that way.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
was
saying-
just curious. I wanted to
I think
know.
the same thing. It's kind of odd.
I can add one small thing. I think when I started, Brent had said that part of it is that Street Sidewalk Sewers is the only committee that guarantees that every single ward representative
That's a good.
is on that committee.
That's a good explanation.
Okay.
And I'm sticking to it, yeah. On that same,
I'm not questioning you. I just was like, hey, what's the
on
thinking
that
behind
same
this?
note, I would like to ask my committee members, as we've done in the past, seeing as this is just a sale of a business, it's an existing, long-time existing bar, and, it's not really a new, well, I don't want to say it's not a new liquor license, but considering that it's a transfer of ownership, does anyone have any qualms with me saying that we're going to not ask for a hearing from my committee?
Nope.
No? Okay. Then we will not request a hearing.
Thank you, noted.
Thank you. Any other business to come before council this evening?
I have one more thing. And
Yes.
This is actually to talk about Wednesday, October 4th. The FEMA and the FCC are testing their EAS, Emergency Alert System, and their Wireless Emergency Notification System, also known as WEA. I don't know why. That'll happen, this is a nationwide test. Now, in the past, you've seen this if you've been watching television around 2:30. There's a 1-minute test, and they put the banners across, and they say this is a test, it's only a test, et cetera. This year, they're adding in cell phones. It's going to be something like when you get an Amber Alert in your area, your phone goes off with that Amber Alert information. Now, I know phones, you can turn that off on some phones. Say, no Amber Alerts, please. You don't want that waking you up in the middle of the night because it is an obnoxious sound. This test will be done at 2:20 in the afternoon, and you can't turn it off. It is a nationwide test. If your phone is within or connected to a tower, you'll get that message. It'll be one time. You'll get the message one time on each one of your cellular devices. It'll be a tone and a vibration that is dedicated to this purpose only. It won't be something that you can set up in your device. And it'll say this is a test, there's no action needed. So don't be concerned about it. Be aware that it's going to happen. They're saying that they're going to do it at 2:20. if there is bad weather Wednesday, they will postpone it till the following Wednesday because they don't want to set that off if people are dealing with, really bad weather in their area. The other thing I was going to say, the reason that I have put this out pretty much as far as I can is that I actually got a message on Messenger this morning from the daughter of a friend from college who said, hey, I know you're in emergency management. I've been hearing from some of my friends in college that they're telling you to turn your phones off before this because the alert will actually release a chemical from your phone to hurt you. But I think I should get better information from somebody. And I said, well, thank you. And I told her exactly what it was and directed her toward the press release. The point is that misinformation and disinformation is out there. And as leaders, we should be prepared to answer those questions and not smirk too much when you hear it. So that's all. Any questions about that test on Wednesday? It has nothing to do with my office.
Thank you, John. Councilmember Thacker.
I do have one more thing. So we had talked about reviewing our current ordinance regarding the golf cart and underspeed vehicles. So I reached out to Chief Pauly and asked if there are some times available in the next couple of weeks so we can make sure we keep an eye on that. So I wanted to know if there's any possibility we could meet a little early before our meeting on the 16th. I was thinking maybe, I don't know, what do you think? 30 minutes? Do you think we'll need a whole hour for something like that? Anybody? I'm thinking 30 minutes should be good enough. If we go for 6:15, will that work for you all? Okay, then I will announce a streets, sidewalks, sewers meeting to discuss underspeed vehicles and any other business that comes before that committee at 6:15, 6:15 on October 16th in council chambers.
Thank you. Any other business to come before council this evening? Okay, seeing none, we can adjourn. Thank you all.